couple of basic things we can do. Number one is when you get your leaders together, you would do this if you were running a corporation or a not-for-profit organization. You pull your leaders together and you say, look, our expenses are 18% over revenues this year. I need you to go back to your departments and somehow, mumble among yourselves, but bring back to me 18% reductions across the board. Now, it doesn't mean every department gets cut 18%, but somehow we've got to figure out how to get down to where revenues are. The next thing we do is when we're preparing the 2011 budget, instead of starting with the 2010 budget, which is at a total of $412 million, we're going to start at zero. It's called zero-based budgeting. We'll start at zero and build the budget from there and make every dollar that wants to get into the budget, every dollar of spending, make it fight its way in. Make it justify itself. Put the stuff in there first that you have to legally put in there. And frankly, there's a lot of that because the state mandates that the county spend a ton of money. But put that stuff in there first and then be very, very cautious about anything else that can get in. And we need to start measuring what the county does in terms of results, not just good intentions. And that includes the human services spending that we do on behalf of the state. If you aren't helping people with that money, what are you doing spending $190 million a year? If people aren't getting back up on their feet as a result of your drug and alcohol program, or the programs that you have to benefit the poor, what are we doing blowing that kind of money? And what happens if we're actually making things worse for folks? By chaining them to a trough of government dependency from which they cannot escape. They've been so stripped of their dignity that they can no longer function in society. We've turned them into permanent wards of the state. It's such a humiliating thing. Maybe we need to start asking questions about that. So we cut the spending, we do zero-based budgeting, we do some serious looking around and say, first of all, is the state doing anything like sending us mandates to do stuff and not sending us all the money to do it? An unfunded mandate, have you heard that phrase? Now, I don't know if this will get me thrown in jail, but if Governor Rendell or whoever the next governor happens to be wants me to perform some sort of unfunded activity and tries to require me to do that, we say no. No. If you want us to spend $100,000, send us $100,000. If you want us to spend $125,000, send us $125,000. Don't send us $100,000. Now, frankly, I wish they wouldn't send us all of that either. And so, standing up against unfunded mandates. The next one is even more controversial, and I don't care. I've got nothing to lose. We need to stop the shell game. We need to stop the idea that politicians come home with these big cardboard checks that they then hand out to people and say, look, I got your money. Free money. No cost. We didn't raise your local taxes. You see, because that money came from someplace that taxes you. And those tax bills all wind up on the same kitchen table. And the only thing they're arguing about is who has to take the blame for it. When I was at a county commissioners meeting the other night, I heard one of the county commissioners, I shudder to say, one of my fellow party members, suggesting that wouldn't it be cool if the state finally complied with the Supreme Court order that's some 20 years old that required it to pay for the courts some $26 million a year. Wouldn't that be great? Well, great for who? The state of Pennsylvania is running a $3.2 billion deficit. As last time I checked, you and I were still in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They're going to tax us to get that money one way or the other. It's just a shell game as to which government official has to take responsibility for that. And so one of the things we can do to get to rein that in on a federal and state level is to stop going to Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. and begging for free money. There is no such thing as free money. Local people need local solutions. The idea that somehow we're all going to go to Harrisburg from 67 counties and get our fair share. I mean, I wasn't a genius math student. But if everybody gets their fair share, then why do we send the money to Harrisburg in the first place? Somebody's not getting their fair share. And we're just sending money to Harrisburg. They launder it, it shrinks, they send it back to us, and they tell us how to use it. We got to stop the game. During the last 3 or 4 years, Don Cunningham brought home an extra $35 million in money from Harrisburg. Bragging about it. Now Harrisburg is tightening its belt. What happens? We've become deeply dependent upon an unreliable funding source. And ultimately, we're going to wind up paying for that. Right now, They're coming for the gamblers and the smokers. You know that old story, when they came for the gamblers, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a gambler. When they came for the smokers, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a smoker. And then they came for the people who work for a living. And then they came for the people who own homes or rent them. And it comes home. We need to stop playing the shell game and tell the politicians that we're on to them and that they can rip up their cardboard checks and keep them. It's simple stuff. It's common sense. Balance the budget. Do zero-based budgeting. Stop the shell game. Stop the free money scam. And then there are probably some assets sitting around in Lehigh County that we might be able to do something with. You wouldn't believe how much property governments own, both real estate and other kinds of property. And we need to look at what we can prudently, nice word is, or the not nice word is liquidate, but what can we prudently sell? What has a market value that would be worth selling so that we can bring this under control? The answer is never to rely on shaky funding sources or taxing people who are already overtaxed. I don't have any genius solutions. I just have common sense. And I need your help